All right, I want to talk about the situation in Egypt right now, which is getting more tense by the moment. On the line now is Dr. Walid Phares, a Middle East analyst and author of The Coming Revolution, Struggle for Freedom in the Middle East. Dr. Phares, thanks for joining us here this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, I want to see if I can sort of get my arms wrapped around what's going on there. I mean, the military has sort of made some noise as if they might get involved. That would be a real change in the dynamic of this situation right now. Explain to me what the military has said they might do.
Well, it's important to understand the context. This is 1 year after the election of President Morsi. There has been a significant popular uprising against the president, who's the head of the Muslim Brotherhood, since last December. And 2 weeks ago, the opposition said that as of June 30th, they're going to start a massive protest rally demanding his resignation. Now, Sunday, the big surprise for everybody, including for the opposition, was the sheer mass of people that took to the streets. You know, they're talking about 20 million. Our estimate is maybe 16, but that's still huge. Only in Egypt, about 6 million Egyptians took to the streets.
Right.
Now, that sent a message to the army that the majority really is against Morsi. The army will not do a coup d'etat as we know it, the old Latin American kind of coup d'etat. They know that the international community won't accept that, but at the same time, they told Morsi, and that's the essence of their message, we're not going to act against those people. Either you resign, or those people are going to stay in the streets. We're not going to bring back security the way you want.
Now, some people have suggested in commentary about this that if you look at this as secular versus Islamist, you're sort of missing the point. That a lot of this is just young people who call themselves sort of associated with a group called the Tamarod, and that they're just unsettled, that they don't really know what they want to replace Morsi. They just know they don't like him.
That's basically what the Muslim Brotherhood propaganda is trying to say, to discredit the movement Tamarod, which basically means rebellion. And that is a collection of NGOs that are not only secular, they are even liberal. And what is true about the argument is they don't have a man to replace him. So not having a person, a president or a leader to replace him does not mean that they don't know what they want. They don't want the agenda of the Muslim Brotherhood. They don't want an Islamist regime. They are secular and they are liberal. Simply they don't have a leader, but that will happen later. At this point in time, what is important is that Morsi will resign. An interim government of technocrats, meaning not political leaders, will take over. The army will secure ports, airports, sovereignty. That's all what the army is needed to do. And then a real process of election will begin, meaning a real process whereby the Muslim Brotherhood won't have a preferred treatment and will not be the only force that the United States and Europe will be recognizing.
Dr. Walid Phares is our guest. He's a Fox News Middle East analyst and also author of The Coming Revolution, Struggle for Freedom in the Middle East. And Dr. Phares, it seems like a lot of the anger, a lot of the frustration in these protests is directed at not just Morsi, but his political party, the Muslim Brotherhood. How is that different from what we saw in the Arab Spring a year and a half ago?
Because the Arab Spring in Egypt, the first wave, was made by everybody, meaning, if you recall, first days and even a week, the same youth that today call themselves Tamarod were called April 6th. They were against authoritarian regime, against Mubarak. The Muslim Brotherhood waited in the back to see what would the international community do. The international community judged that this is really a peaceful, middle-class, labor, lawyer, artist kind of a movement, so we extended the umbrella. When that happened, then the Muslim Brotherhood moved in. The Brotherhood maneuvered the youth for about a year until Morsi was established. Actually, Morsi got more than 25% of the votes he got, or the 50%, non-Muslim Brotherhood, just regular people who said, okay, we accept a Muslim Brotherhood leader. It was really the 1 year of rule of Morsi whereby he changed the constitution, made it more Islamic, started to push back against democracy, liberal ideas, secular ideas, and also remove the upper tier of the army. When that happened, then the people on the ground realized that they have given power to someone who's like Khomeini is going to transform Egypt. And add to it, may I say, one point, the fact that he mismanaged Egypt economically. That really exploded everything.
Yeah.
Egypt in 20 days will be hitting a severe economic crisis.
And how much, I mean, is there any sense of the thrust of these demonstrations? Is there a sense that they are looking for a more secularized society in Egypt, or are they in line with the Muslim Brotherhood trying to become more of an Islamic nation, or is it sort of unknown at this point?
I have been speaking with many of the leaders, the politicians of the opposition. All of the people I spoke with have this thing, except, of course, the Marxists and socialists who are a minority. They say, we are Muslim, many among us are conservative Muslims, some are liberal Muslims. We don't want an Islamist state. We want to be in a Muslim majority state where the Copts will have all their rights, but we don't want to live under Sharia outside the family status, which is basically a Sharia state. Now, obviously, you have still many Muslim conservatives, but they also don't like there are multiple layers. Most of the layers dislike the Muslim Brotherhood because the Brotherhood are fascist in their eyes. They are authoritarian. But the rest are not all secular. You have moderate religious, you have secular, and you have very extreme secular.
Well, let me ask you this. You said that what is likely to happen is that the military will step in, Morsi will be out of the way, the technocrats will be in charge of making sure that the government functions.
Yes.
But you know that in the political process, as in nature, abhors a vacuum, and there will be a power vacuum. How will that power vacuum be filled? Will it end well, or will it end badly?
I think if Egyptians will get rid of the Muslim Brotherhood, meaning not in power, then the forces of good are going to come together. Then you're going to see it. I call it a Sicilian situation. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be Sweden. It's going to move towards becoming a quasi-democracy and etc. But at least the cancer, as the Egyptians are telling me, will be out. Because if they don't stop what's happening, you're moving into a Nazi or fascist situation a la Egypt. If you remove that threat, then Egypt will move in another direction, which won't be perfect, but there won't be threat against Camp David. There won't be support to the Salafists, and Egypt will actually go back to what it was before, minus an authoritarian regime. But let me end with one note here, this question. All depends on what Morsi and the Brotherhood are going to do. They're not going to go in silence. They're not going to accept, to leave like Mubarak. They are a huge force. They are ideological. Qatar and and all the ulamas, meaning the radical sheikhs, such as the one who's now in Egypt and trying to support them, are going to tell them, fight for that battle. So I am waiting to see if Morsi is going to make the mistake of fighting, or if he's going to heed the advice of the army and leave peacefully.
Dr. Walid Phares, really quickly, we just got word that the President Obama actually did call President Morsi. He didn't lend direct support. He just said that he wanted to make sure that this worked itself out in the political process. What is your assessment of the President or the State Department through Secretary of State John Kerry's handling of this situation?
Very negative, for the simple reason that the Egyptian secular leaders and the opposition are telling me, well, look at the difference. In January of 2011, when there was a mass of 1 million, the President was very quick at asking his old friend Mubarak to leave. Now you have 17 million, maybe 20 on the streets of Egypt calling for the departure. And President Obama is still treating this as he's in the middle. We're not meddling. This is in the middle. So it means that the administration's Egypt experts or Arab world experts are still telling the president that this is our man, we need to stick by Morsi. But that is going to be bad if Morsi actually at the end of the day would resign. Because the majority of Egyptians now, and I read it in Arabic press in Egypt, do feel that the U.S., they don't make a distinction between Obama and the U.S.,
right,
do feel that the U.S. has been supporting the authoritarians.
Dr. Walid Phares, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.